What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Against All Odds podcast. I'm here with Mr. Murphy. Murph, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I've been waiting a long time to come on. Just been asked to be a replacement, so
You're my first choice this week.
Happy to be here. Happy to follow up who we actually wanted.
Yeah, well, actually, I asked. I've been asking Dev for a few weeks, if I'm being honest, and Dev just flaking on me, much coaching.
Good luck getting Dev to talk for 2 hours straight.
I know. We'll probably get like 45 minutes out of that one.
Good 45 minutes though.
Yeah, but welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to do some rapid fire questions.
Hit me.
Working on the podcast, and then we'll go through your story like usual. Full name.
James Vincent Murphy.
I like that name. Vincent.
James is my dad's name, and Vincent is my mom's dad.
That's cool.
Yeah, all family.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie, Wedding Crashers.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, all time. I watch it every single time it comes on.
Favorite country you visited?
Favorite country I've visited? That's probably Spain, specifically Marbella. I went to Marbella once for a trip, and that was probably the coolest place I've been.
Okay. I've been to Spain. I've been to Barcelona, and I've been to Madrid.
I've done Madrid also. I loved Madrid.
Did you watch any games over there?
Yeah, I saw Real Madrid play Celta Vigo. This was way back in like 2009 or 2010 probably. Mm-hmm. But that's sick. Yeah, at the Bernabeu. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I've been to the Bernabeu. Yeah. It was unreal.
So sick.
What's your favorite team that you support?
Manchester United. Easy. And soft spot for Celtic.
Okay. Why Celtic?
Just kind of like the Irish heritage it has, going, if you go way back, like the original story of Celtic and stuff like that. It's, the Irish, just the Irish heritage. My granddad was a Celtic supporter, so my dad also. And so just kind of follow them. But Manchester United is kind of, I live and die for them.
Why Manchester United?
It was the first shirt that I ever had. So I was a baby, and my dad got me a Manchester United shirt. He was a big Roy Keane fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so he supported Man United naturally, too. Mm-hmm. And so, I was, I got just a Man United shirt when I was a kid, and I followed them ever since.
That's sick. And so, like, football's been in your family for a while then? Because are you fully Irish?
So I pretty much say I'm fully Irish. Yeah, my mom would argue that she's got some Italian and stuff in her. So I guess I'm a little bit Italian, but I'm really Irish. Yeah, both my dad's parents are Irish immigrants, came through Ellis Island and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
Irish runs deep for me.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Favorite sport to watch other than soccer?
College basketball. I'm a huge college basketball guy.
Favorite team in the NCAA?
Seton Hall University, school in New Jersey. My dad went to them. He played soccer there in the 80s. And so, huge Seton Hall fans. I've been going to Seton Hall basketball games and soccer games ever since I was a kid. Yeah, they've come together a lot. It was painful when I was younger, but the last 10 years have been good. A lot of tournament appearances. Won the Big East a couple of years ago. So it's been a good ride. Every time I'm home for the off seasons, I go to at least 3 or 4 games with my brothers and my sister and stuff like that. So it's a really good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I've been to a college basketball game in person.
Ever?
I think I went on my recruiting trip to Oregon State. I went to the Oregon State men's basketball game. But other than that, I just watch March Madness.
I've always tried to go to, I lived in LA for a couple of years. I went to a couple of UCLA games, USC games. Mm-hmm. Just this past year when they held the Sweet 16 over at Little Caesars Arena. Yeah. I went there to watch Purdue versus Tennessee. Yeah, so I love college basketball. I always have.
That's Did you ever play basketball growing up?
Maybe until I was like 12. I played rec and stuff, and then I played 1 year of travel. But after that 1 year of travel, it just was too much.
Yeah. You start getting dunked on.
With no, not like that. Look, I to this day I think I could have made the league, one way or another. But I chose soccer at like 11 years old probably.
I think I was in 8th grade and I was playing like AAU basketball, and there I saw this like 8th grader just windmill dunking. And I was like, you know what? I got to choose a different sport.
I had a couple of those realizations too. When I remember I was just trying to touch backboard back in the day, and there was kids dunking, and that's when I was like, this can't be for me.
Favorite sport to play now other than football?
Golf. Yeah, I love golf. I like playing pickleball too. Mm-hmm. I got into pickleball like 2 years ago, and I love a good game of pickleball, but golf for sure. I'm playing a lot of golf right now, working on my game.
Who do you think is the closest on your team to your level?
The closest on this team to my level, I'd say there's like a few of us. I guess I didn't get to see you play the other day, but apparently you had some good holes. Me and
I
like
had a lot of bad holes
me,
too.
Devin and Maxie play a lot. I'd say I've been playing a little bit longer than them too, so I'd like to say I have a slight edge. But yeah, I'm somewhere in between like Nate, who's pretty good, and like Devin, who's newer but also pretty good. So I'm just in the very, very average, I'd say.
Yeah. It's hard though, because it's like when you're training all day, every day, to then go and play holes after. It's hard. It's a lot of energy.
It is tough. It'll wear you out, and I love playing golf, but I've got no time for the range. Yeah. As much as I need the range to improve, like I only have interest in going out and trying to play real rounds, and I should be spending time at the range, but I just got no energy for that. I'd rather just put my energy into playing at 18 or something.
Yeah, it's way more fun. What's your favorite cheat day meal?
Cheat day meal. I love a good burger. Yeah. If you can get me like some buffalo wings and a burger, like just old school.
Any specific place?
Well, if I went back home to New Jersey, a place called Suspenders in Union. My grandfather's owned it for years, and I'm biased, but I swear it's some of the best, just old school American bar food you can get. So anytime I get home, it's like my first stop. So that would be my cheat day meal. I'd just go there for a fat burger.
To Suspenders for a burger and wings.
Exactly.
What's your drink on the side?
I'm not much of a soda guy, so I'd probably just go like an iced tea. I like an iced tea, a nice sweet tea maybe.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good cheat day.
And I could crush some ice cream too.
What's your favorite ice cream?
So this is a little bit different. I just like a soft serve chocolate vanilla swirl. Throw some sprinkles on it, like nice and easy. Makes me think of the boardwalk. And that's my all-time ice cream.
The boardwalk, the New Jersey boardwalk.
New Jersey boardwalk, yeah.
It's so funny, like thinking about where people grow up, because it's like to me, I've never been on the Jersey boardwalk before. I've seen Jersey Shore and seen like it and all that stuff, but like it's funny thinking about that's people's homes, like close to that area.
I know it is funny because I really live there now. A few years back, got a house down by the Jersey Shore, and so anytime I go home, that's where I spend all of my time, and I've always loved it. Like that was growing up, I never went on vacation. It was just we did like 2 weeks, rented a shore house with the whole family, and that was like our vacations every year. And yeah, it's funny. It's like everyone just thinks of the Jersey Shore like as the TV show, and there's definitely parts of it that are like that, and there's no doubt. But just the shore as a whole, it's one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll do one more question and then we'll get into it. What's your favorite book you've ever read?
Okay, good question. I'm not much of a reader. I try my best to be.
You don't have to tell me that. I can tell.
Yeah. So, I try my best to be. I like to try and read like biographies and stuff, but particularly of players or coaches or whatever that I support and follow. So I would say Roy Keane's autobiography or maybe Wayne Rooney's autobiography is one that like when I started reading it, I actually did want to just keep reading because it had my attention. So yeah, one of those two. I read both of those in the past like year or so. So one of those two I would say was my favorite read so far.
So Roy Keane's was your first jersey of all time. You had that.
Yeah, it was Manchester United jersey.
And then you got your favorite book's his autobiography.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever I mean, you probably haven't met him or seen him.
No, I've seen him. I've seen him before. Been at I think it was like a Manchester United preseason game years and years ago. They were on their summer tour in America, and they might have been playing Celtic or something. And my dad took me, and I think he was there, as an ambassador or whatever these guys do when they retire. But I never got to meet him. I have been able to meet Rooney and a couple other of my idols, so to speak, in the past, which is really cool. But Roy Keane is not one of them yet.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah, hey, one day. Surely some of our connections can, hook it up at some point.
I think he watches this podcast.
Yeah, so. He might actually. He's big into the internet world now, so he probably comes on here and studies. Watches film.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna have one more question actually. Who's your favorite player of all time?
My favorite player of all time is Paul Scholes. So growing up, I was obsessed with him. I was, like I said, a huge Manchester United fan, and Yeah, I would watch like hours on hours of his YouTube videos and stuff like that. He was my favorite player, especially back then. Like, when I was like 9, 10, 8 years old, probably really, really starting to watch soccer a lot and like comprehend it. And I was constantly watching Man U games, and they were always winning and stuff. And he was at the center of so much of it. And so he's my favorite player of all time. Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot too, age and position.
Oh,
the main ones.
26 years old and center midfielder.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, let's get into your story then. So you're born in Jersey.
Yes, born and raised in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, Union County, kind of little northern New Jersey county. And
you got some siblings?
Yep, 2 brothers, 2 younger brothers, 1 older sister. My whole like extended family pretty much lives in New Jersey now too. I've got plenty of cousins and stuff in Ireland, but yeah, all my like extended cousins and stuff like that live in New Jersey. So grew up around a lot of family and all that my whole life.
Do you think when you're done you're gonna go back to Jersey?
I debate this a lot. I mean, yes is what I always say, but it all depends on what I end up doing post career. You know what I mean? Ideally, I'd go back to New Jersey. Like I said, that's where all my family is and stuff there. But if there's a job out there that takes me to a different state, then so be it. But I think East Coast for sure. I definitely want to stay on the East Coast. Maybe one of the Carolinas, something like that.
Carolinas would be sick. South Carolina is unreal. So North Carolina is unreal too. Yeah. You didn't like the West Coast?
I actually do. I love the West Coast. It would just be a decision based on being closer to family. I spent I guess 4 years now across 2 different teams in the West Coast. And so I love it. Like I love California. It's one of my favorite places ever, especially Southern California where the weather's nice and stuff. So yeah, I do. I love it. And it'd just be more of a family decision, being close to my parents and brothers and sister and stuff like that, for sure.
That's the same. Mimi and I were saying that if we could live anywhere without like thinking about family, just the place would be Charleston, because we loved it so much.
I think so many people say that, and I get why. You look forward to that trip every year, don't you?
It's
just
the best.
Going to Charleston.
But yeah, same thing. We're like, both of our families West Coast. So we're like, we spent so long, 10 plus years now bouncing around. We're like, we want to be over there once I'm done.
Especially now being like back in Detroit, like this is the closest I've been to the East Coast in like 6, 7, 8 years now since I kind of started traveling. And so just being back with my parents, I've got to come to a couple more games than they usually get to, and seen some friends and stuff. So yeah, it makes me realize how much I missed being away from the East Coast. So yeah, definitely I'll be in East Coast for life for sure.
This is the closest I've been to the West Coast in like 8 years.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Still not even halfway there.
I know. It's crazy. But making moves, getting closer. But
excuse me.
Yeah. And then so your whole family, like you said, was really involved in football. They were from Ireland. Your parents obviously watched the game because they liked Manchester United.
Yeah.
Was your dream always just to be a professional footballer from as young as you can remember?
Yeah, it was. And I think my parents would tell you the same thing. Like I was just obsessed. So like, my dad, like I said, he played college at Seton Hall University, who was a very good program back in the 80s and stuff. And he played growing up. Like I said, he was the son of a couple of immigrants. So my granddad and granny came over, and my granddad followed soccer, Irish sports too. Like, He played hurling and stuff like that. But yeah, they
any Gaelic football?
He played Gaelic football too. Yeah, he worked construction and stuff, and he told me these stories all the time. And so he would take my dad into the city, and they would be working on skyscrapers and whatnot throughout the day. And then as soon as they were off work, they would go down to the Irish club down in Manhattan and play Gaelic football, and then hop into the pub afterwards. And so like, that was like my dad's life in the summer. Like when he got off school, he'd go work in New York City with my grandfather, and then go down to the Irish pub.
Were they working up like at the skyscrapers way up high like that?
Yeah, way up high.
Really? Like those pictures where they're like balancing on the beams?
Stuff like that. Yeah, like my dad's been up in like the Empire State Building and stuff, doing work on there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, my grandfather ended up being like a project manager. My dad worked for him and all that. Yeah, so I get stories from my granddad and everything all the time about those days.
That's crazy.
But so they always grew up in footy and stuff. Like my dad was a coach, so like he coached my local high school team as an assistant for a little bit when he was younger, and then he coached at PDA, which is where I grew up playing. And so even from when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was just like begging him to take me to his practices, to his games on the weekends. I just followed him everywhere. He was always kicking a ball and in the backyard and stuff like that. I never wanted to stop. And so as I got older, I just took it more and more serious. And I guess, once I was kind of in my young teenage years, I was like really realizing that I probably could be professional. But I always said from like as long as I can remember, it was my dream to play professional soccer for sure.
And then when you were growing up, like from ages like 5 through 10, were you playing any other sports year round? Was it just soccer? Were you training a ton with your brothers and just like stuff like that? Like, what did your week look like?
Yeah, it was. I guess I played it all a little bit. Baseball for a few years, soccer, but all just like rec stuff. When I was younger. And I always knew definitely that soccer was by far my favorite. But, I played baseball to be with my friends. Like most kids did back then, at least, played a couple sports just because your friends were doing it and stuff like that. And, it was back then, I guess when you're athletic, you're just kind of athletic. So you can play those other sports. And so I played baseball up until I was 9 or 10, played basketball until I was 11 or 12. But like baseball was the spring, basketball was the winter, like, 2-3 months. And then footy I was playing all year long. And so I definitely knew I wanted, like footy was my favorite. And then, when I was 12, I just wanted to put way more time into it. Like 11 or 12, I just lost interest in basketball and baseball and knew that football, I think, was like, I was obsessed. So I just wanted to practice more. And so that's what I ended up putting all my time into. And
were you with PDA for like majority of your youth career?
Yeah, so I got started.
They're good, right? They're like top in the nation.
Very good, yeah. Especially for non-MLS, they've been one of the top academies in the nation. Like we won a couple national championships back in my time there, and even before that, my dad coached great teams, tons of pros, like tons of Division I, really soccer players, and Division II, Division III guys too, all over the country. So it was a really prolific academy, and it still is actually, especially like I said for non-MLSs. But I guess I started like everyone else. I mean, my parents put me in really early, so I was probably 2.5, 3 years old when I first like got put into like a recreation with like kindergarten and stuff like that. So from there, I was playing like rec, and I played that until whatever 5 or 6 before your first travel. Tryouts and stuff. But then I played like my first 3 years of like, travel soccer back then, and with my hometown team, with all my friends and stuff like that. Luckily, I grew up in a town it's like, we call it like a soccer town. Like it's just heavily, heavily influenced by soccer. So we had good like youth teams growing up and stuff with all my friends. And then when I was playing PDA, like, you'd guest play and stuff back then. So I was playing with PDA too whenever I could. And then when I was like 10 or 11, I switched over to PDA full time. And I played for 2 teams. Like I played up an age group, and then I played my own age group just like so I could play more games and practice more and stuff. And I think I was really small back then, so I think my dad wanted me to get beat up a little bit by the older kids, like in training and everything. And then from 8 till 17, I played for PDA.
Gotcha. Okay. 8 to 17. That's great. I think I played for my youth career is kind of like my professional career. Right? I just go ding, 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 different places. Yeah. You meet a lot of people.
Yeah. No, well, like I said, like my dad coached there ever since I was born, really. I think the club was founded in 1998, and then my dad started working there the year after. So like, it was just, I was there all the time, every single weekend when my dad had games, it was either there at PDA or I would just travel with him, like, sit in the car for however many hours.
Does he still coach?
No. So he retired like 4 or 5 years ago from coaching, just to kind of watch it. I mean, my youngest brother is in college now, but like just kind of watch him for his last few years and stuff. He kind of got over the coach and stuff, did it for so long. Yeah. And so he stopped coaching, just became a follower of his sons more so.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and then like once we get to like the high school age, were you able to play high school soccer, or did you have to, is it like where it's just academy?
Yeah, so funny enough, I played high school soccer my freshman year. So like I said, it was like a very big soccer town. Like the high school coach, who has since passed, my old coach Brez, he was a very close family friend and stuff, like a mentor to my dad. So I was always going to play high school soccer. Like I knew that was going to happen. So I played my freshman year. We had a really good team. like I said, a bunch of guys like who played for PDA, who ended up playing in college. So I played my freshman year. I played on the varsity team, and then was only planning to play for that freshman year. So in the spring, went and played academy with PDA again and stuff like that. Had like a really good academy year, and I can vividly remember this stuff. But like back then, for that span of a few years and stuff, I wasn't getting called into any national team camps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really mad that I wasn't getting called into any camps. Mm-hmm. And it was like a big thing for like national team players definitely couldn't play high school and stuff like that. So after my freshman year and then after that spring playing PDA, I still didn't get called up for national team camp. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to play high school again. Like, screw it. I'm not getting national team call-ups anyways for, as a U18 or U17 back then. And so I played a second year of high school. And honestly, like, it was probably the best thing I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
It was like just a year where I had so much fun. And like, I almost like, I found myself a little bit, like, or I found out kind of how good I could be back then, at least, because I was a sophomore and I was playing for my varsity team in a competitive area in the state and stuff like that, like New Jersey. High school soccer, at least, used to be very, very competitive. And I ended up winning a bunch of awards and stuff. I was like high school All-American as a sophomore. I was Gatorade Player of the Year and stuff.
Damn, I didn't hear you're Gatorade Player of the Year. That's crazy.
I was Gatorade Player of the Year that year. And, got all this recognition, and it gave me like this crazy amount of confidence.
Yeah.
Like back then, like I just played like the high school just because like I was like, I'm not playing for national team anyways. Mm-hmm. I had I want to play high school again. It was almost like a petty thing to do, as if like the national team cared at all what I was doing. Like they weren't calling me up anyways. And so then I played, and sure enough, at the end of that high school season, I got called into the national team for the U18s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in there, and they told me I couldn't play high school again for my junior year because I ended up getting called up a little bit more consistently at that point. But it was just funny how that all worked out. Like I ended up getting those 2 years of high school soccer, which were some of the two of the best years of my life, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
I had the most fun I've ever had playing soccer with, my friends that I grew up with and all that stuff. And then, at the end of that, was after the end of that second year, I didn't get to play again.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually only went to high school for one more year after that. And so I missed out on my junior year. But I wish I would have gotten the chance to go back and play, so I could have had a year with my brother.
Yeah.
Which would have been cool. That was the one thing.
2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, 2 years younger than me. So if I just kind of played that fall of my junior year, we would have gotten a year together. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? No regrets.
Yeah. And then so when you were called up with the national team, the U18 camp, what big names were there? Where was it? What was that like? Because you said it mentioned a few call-ups.
Yeah, so that first one that I had gotten called back up to for the under 18s was, it was out in California, and that was kind of like a big pool of players. And then it was like a bunch of their regulars and then a bunch of guys who they hadn't regularly been calling up. And then after that, there was, a trip to Spain. I kind of mentioned that, Marbella, Spain. Mm-hmm. So there was a trip to Spain, and that was like 2 weeks after that California camp. So I went to the California camp. I did really well, and then I got called up into that Spain trip, which I was thrilled about. But on that team, there was guys like Haji Wright, who plays with the national team now. Guys all over the league. Miles Robinson was part of those. Anthony Robinson, who plays for Fulham and for the national team now.
Killing it right now.
Yeah, a ton of big names, even other guys. Eric Williamson, who's been playing for Portland Timbers for the last 4 years. He's got national team camps. Jackson Ewells played for San Jose for the last like 7
Who was the coach?
7 years. So the U18s back then, it was Javier Perez, who he's a coach somewhere in the MLS now as an assistant or something. And then when U18s transitioned to U20s, it was Tab Ramos.
Oh, Tab. Okay.
Yeah, so
I knew he was in there somewhere.
Yeah. So he took over the end of the U18s.
And he was the U23 coach for years, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was the U20s and the Olympic team. So I worked with him with the U20s for a good, solid year, 18 months or so.
Mm-hmm. And he's from New Jersey, right?
New Jersey guy, yeah.
How far away is where he's from where you're from?
So where he grew up like outside this area called Kearney, which everyone knows is like, people call it back home like Soccer Town, USA, because to like John Harkes, a bunch of these other guys, long story long history of, soccer players who come from there. And he's from right outside there. And that's just like 35 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So yeah, he grew up, my dad grew up playing against Tab, playing with Tab, and then coaching against Tab in like the early days of PDA and NJSA, which is a club that Tab has started back in New Jersey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've known Tab for a long, long time.
I love Tab. Tab, he was my coach. For those that are listening, he was my coach at Hartford, and he was, like, as Murph was saying, was the U20, U23 national team coach for a long time. Yeah. Crazy career with the U.S. men's national team. One of the best,
I think, U.S. men's players of all time, for sure.
And just ridiculous player. Yeah. And I mean, we had a tough year last year at Hartford, but I really, really respected Tab. I thought his coaching was great. It was cool to be able to learn from somebody who's done that,
For sure.
And it's just a cool thing. But yeah, he's a really good guy too. I was talking to him even a couple times after the season ended. Yeah. Just a good guy.
Yeah, he is, for sure. He's very, very cool guy to play for a couple of years. And like you said, he'd been there, done that, you know, played at World Cups and all that. So he was a cool guy to kind of play under and learn from in that, like, national team environment kind of thing. You know? But yeah, that group back then, and then obviously sometimes 1998s, because I was in 97 group growing up, but your guys like Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams, all these guys were kind of right on the tails of our team and getting called up into the same camps as us. So that whole age group has gone on to do some really, really impressive things, in their footballing careers, which is really cool to watch.
And then with the national team camp, like, what was your mindset in there? Were you kind of going off the high of your high school career where you're just feeling so confident, or was it like a little reality check of like, these guys are really good?
Yeah. Back then, my teenage years and stuff like that, and I was pretty high on confidence. Yeah. And like I'd kind of mentioned, I was really dying, probably too much, to be part of one of those national team camps. And so when I first got there, for sure, I was a little bit like, okay, like, I'm the new guy, like, do I belong, maybe, kind of deal. And then just after, a week or two, I was kind of at the phase where I was like, all right, I think I can really hack it here. And like, if I was going on a trip and maybe didn't start games or whatnot, I was like leaving frustrated kind of thing, because I really wanted to be playing and really thought I could. So yeah, back then I was super high on confidence. I was saying stuff, and anytime I got involved, I really wanted to play and really thought that I could play and stuff. And even as that got to like the U20 period, that cycle where you end up going to a World Cup, and I didn't end up making the World Cup team after, spending almost 4 years playing with that cycle. I didn't end up making the World Cup team. And looking back at the players who went, I probably didn't belong, even though at the time I thought I did. But like, yeah, when Tab had told me that he wasn't taking me to World Cup, that was like super, super frustrating, obviously. And I really thought I could have been there. And I was under my first professional contract at the time and stuff. So obviously confidence was still high. I felt good about, early days of a career, so to speak. And so yeah, that was frustrating. But you look back and kind of laugh at those things, because I see the players that they had there and the careers they've gone on to have. Like we said, Tyler Adams and Westons and stuff like that, who went to that World Cup, and those guys are ballers playing at massive clubs now. And so maybe Tab made the right decision. Maybe.
I'll bring Tab on here and then we can figure out that decision.
I can put him on the hot seat real quick.
That's funny. He's just back in New Jersey, isn't he, right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I know he's got he's still got some either training centers or clubs going on back there and stuff. So yeah, as far as I know, he's back in New Jersey. I'm sure we'll see his name pop up in a job again soon somewhere.
I know. I have full confidence in that.
Yeah.
And then so when you're doing this, because the big decision at this time is whether you want to go play collegiately or whether you want to go hop in the professional world. Yeah. What was your mindset then? Were you fully committed going pro? Was college at all on your mind, or what were you thinking?
I was fully committed. School.
How were your grades in high school?
Not great. I mean, they weren't terrible. I mean, my parents
better than Rutsi's.
Definitely better than Rutsi's. I don't know what his were, but I can't imagine they were worse than his.
Like a 2. I think it was a 2.0.
See, and I mean, like where he lives in like the sticks, high school can't be that hard. So yeah, definitely better than Rutsi. But no, I mean, my parents kept me honest in school, at least, you know, especially when I was young. My parents were pretty strict about, I mean, everything, but definitely grades and stuff like that. But then I think as I got into high school, I mean, I was spending so much time just training, working out, yada, yada. I think they realized that school wasn't for me, and they just, you know, made sure I, you know, did enough. You know what I mean?
Especially when you're having national team call-ups, you're at this time probably getting attention from professional teams. It's not like it's like a dream where it's like me at 17, I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna go play pro, and I'm playing on the B team of my local club team. Mom's like, all right, come on.
Yeah, no, it was, I guess when I was like 15 and 16, it became like a real reality. And yeah, like I was traveling a ton, so school was hard to keep up with in the first place.
Traveling with the men's national team, or was it your club team?
Well, I was traveling with the men's national team, and then as I said, got to like 16 and stuff, and gone on some trips with the men's national team. That's when you kind of start getting trials or opportunities to go on trial and stuff. So I gone to England a few times and stuff for trials, and so it was like hard to keep up. I ended up leaving school actually my junior year of high school, so like probably just around halfway through, I jumped over to doing online, and like basically was essentially homeschooled, but did all my work through an online textbook and stuff, just because it was way easier for me to keep up with. My school back then was really helpful about it, and my parents were, you know, okay with it because they realized that I could just spend a lot more time working out, doing whatever I saw as like my future. And so the only real reason that college was even a thought for me is just because my parents always wanted me to consider it, and they always wanted me to keep it in mind. And you know, luckily back then I was recruited by a lot of schools and could have had the opportunity to go to really it's tons of big schools, you know, prestigious schools. It just didn't interest me. Like I didn't want to go to school. I even said back then, you know, if I was going to go to school, I used to tell them I was just going to go to Monmouth University back in New Jersey because they're a good program and I didn't want to leave home. I said if I was going to go, it would be for one semester. Yeah. And so, yeah, it just wasn't for me. And really, I had like a 3-tier thing. Like I wanted to go to Europe, and then if that didn't work out, I wanted to try and sign an MLS, and then I would go to college. And like I said, when I turned like 16, all that kind of started coming to fruition. And, you know, when I was 16, I went and spent like 2 weeks training with Philly Union during their preseason. And that was like my first professional environment. And then I spent some time training with NYCFC. And like I said, I went on a couple trials overseas and stuff like that. So then once I got those like tastes of it, I was like, yeah, college just isn't for me. And I was ready to take whatever risk like possible in order to, you know, try and pave a career playing right away.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then did you, like, because you were going on all these trials, were you nervous at these trials, or were you still flying with confidence? Because now you're not just competing against guys your age, you're competing against 32-year-old men.
Yeah, I mean, it was when I went into these, like when I went to Philly Union, when I went to NYCFC, the coaches obviously did a good job of kind of like filtering me in and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Just like kind of we see now when some of the younger kids come and train with us, like, you know, maybe you're pushed to the side for a little bit, parts of it you're in. But I was definitely nervous when I was younger, you know, 16, going into those environments. But I learned pretty quickly, like, it would only take like a little bit for me to like be like, all right, I'm good here. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like maybe a passing drill where it's like you feel super sharp, you know that feeling, you're like, all right, I can do this kind of thing. Or like a small sided game where, you know, you do a couple good passes, score a goal, whatever, and you're like, all right, it's like a weight comes off your shoulders, and like, all right, I can do this. And then, you know, when I went on some of these trials over in England, I was definitely nervous, but that was more with my own age groups. So I was like 16, 17-year-old playing with, you know, their under 18s or their reserves. And so anytime I was with, you know, my peers, so to speak, players my age and stuff, I was always, you know, super confident and stuff. And like I said, it's once I was there for a little bit, I always kind of felt like I belonged and stuff. And you know, at that point, it was just like, you know, I was really hoping that the coaches see what you think and you get offered, really, which is crazy when, you know, you're that young and stuff to be like having those thoughts. But that was my focus for sure.
And what trials did you go over in England?
So I spent some time at West Brom. I trialed with Southampton for a couple weeks. I was at Manchester United for like 2 months, which was a pretty wild one. And then I was at Sheffield Wednesday a few different times because Sheffield Wednesday was one of my first trials, and they offered me my first professional contract right off the bat. But I had these other couple trials lined up and stuff like that. And then like the Manchester United thing came out of the blue, I should say. And so I had that offer at Sheffield Wednesday. So I went there, and then I went to Manchester United for a couple months. Obviously didn't get offered there. And then went back to Sheffield Wednesday, was waiting for my Irish passport to be completed and stuff. So there was a time where I would like go to Sheffield Wednesday for like 5-6 weeks, come home for like 3 months, and then went back out there for like a few weeks in the winter. And then finally it was, I think just before my 18th birthday is when all my paperwork was done and stuff, and I moved there full time.
Got it. Yeah, that's just like do the tourist visa pretty much, because you're going there on a tourist visa, right?
So I was able to get, I would go through customs and just say, yeah, I was visiting, for 2 weeks and stuff like that. I wouldn't say anything about soccer. But since my grandparents are from Ireland, I was able to obtain the Irish passport to like live there without a working visa, since it was part of the UK back then. The UK wasn't with the whole Brexit thing back then, but so I would just go there and say like, yeah, I'm just visiting for 4 weeks or whatever, and I'd stay over there with the host family for 4 weeks, and then I would go back home, and then finally all the paperwork came through and stuff.
And how was the trial with Man U? Like that's the team that like we kind of talked about all this podcast, like your favorite team. Now that you're putting on their kit to go train with them, how was that?
Yeah, that was wild. To be honest. So I was on one of my trials or trips with Sheffield Wednesday, and I'd played in a game against like Burnley, and then after the game, my agent at the time, who was this guy out in England who helped me with these trials, he had like called me and asked me if I would like want to go train with Man United for a few days. And in my head, I was like, nah, like I don't belong there. Like, come on. And then he was like, he said he had some sort of connection who also knew one of my PDA coaches that I grew up with, Sam Nellens. Shout out Sam. He was my coach for basically all my youth years coming up at PDA. So he helped me with all these trials too, with a lot of his connections back in England where he was from. And so, it just ended up being like, do you want to go train at Man United for a few days? And I honestly thought of saying no, because I was like, I can't, like, I can't go train with them. But I was like, yeah, okay. And so I went there and got stuck in with their reserve team. I think I was 17 at the time, so I went and trained with their reserve team. I mean, back then it had the likes of Scott McTominay, Marcus Rashford, like other guys who were like breaking into the first team at the time back then, who have, guys who play all over England and Europe now, just not in Manchester United. And so I went in there, and it was kind of that, like I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Like I was shitting bricks.
Yeah, because you put these guys in this team on such a pedestal.
Yeah, just like being at Manchester United, like you just, especially for me being like a fan my whole life, you just like put at this standard that like I never, even my most confident as a teenager, I never thought I was anywhere close to their teenagers. And it was just one of those things, like the first session, you get out there on the grass and like you hop into a passing drill, and the ball's just firing around on the grass. And it was just like the first touch, I'll always remember it, because the first touch I took was just like the perfect touch, went in, zipped the perfect pass, and I was like, okay, I'm good. So I ended up training, and it was only supposed to be for like 4 days. And at the end of the 4 days, they asked me if I could stay for like another 2 weeks. And I was like, all right, yeah. And so I stayed for 2 weeks, and they asked me if I could stay again after that. And at that point, I'm like, all right, what's happening here? Like, I went and had a couple of conversations with the reserves coach and stuff, and he was telling me that he liked me and all these things and yada, yada, yada. And, so I ended up staying for right around close to 2 months. And it was just like at that time, at the end of the 2 months, they were like, all right, you're 17, yada, yada. Like if we have a 17-year-old, we like just kind of expect him to be playing first team in a matter of years. And I was like, well, yeah, it's not going to be me. But I almost like begged, so like, I promise I'll work as hard as you want. Yeah. But no, honestly, it was an unreal experience. At the end, it's almost like sad, because like I felt like I got so close to just getting that first pro. And obviously, first pro, like you're still a million miles away from ever playing for the actual team. But just to have been able to say that, I made it to there and sign that for the club that I always loved growing up would have been something else. But yeah, it was unreal. Just to get back and like this, I tell this story every opportunity I can get just to say I did it.
For sure. I mean, like, think about just, okay, yeah, sure, it'd been great to sign, but the amount of players that get to even trial for their dream club is so minuscule.
Yeah,
I haven't been offered any trials at Arsenal. Not yet. Maybe in a couple of years.
Well, if they ever want to win a trophy, maybe they should change some things up.
I know. I mean, I think I could help.
But yeah, it was. I mean, and I was so grateful for the opportunity back then. Obviously, it came from a lot of people who were looking out for me and wanted the best for me at the time. Helped me get that opportunity, which was awesome. And like I said, I love to tell the story, even just look back on it and stuff. There was like we talk about meeting idols and stuff like that. There was one day I remember, I think it was like a day off, but I got told to come in anyways to meet with people, whatever. So I was just sitting in what was the reserves locker room. And then Ryan Giggs, who was on Louis Van Gaal's coaching staff by that point at that time, like opened the door and pokes his head into the locker room. And I'm the only one sitting there. And he looks at me and he like asks for a player. He's like, "Is this guy in today?" And I just like look back and I'm like, not sure what to say. I was like, I haven't seen him, but I like totally froze. And I was like, that was Ryan Giggs. And I was like stuff like that, I'll be able to like talk about for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's so sick. I mean, in about 10% of the quality of that story, but like even going over to Germany, like you put on the pedestal of German football and you're thinking, oh, I'm just an American college player that from this mid-sized school. And now I'm going to go over to Germany and you're so nervous. I'm like, how it's going to be. But then once you get out there, like you kind of said, you get one good touch, one good pass. And you're like, oh, it's still just football. Like, it's still the same thing.
Exactly.
I can still touch the ball the right way. I can, most of the time, I can still pass the ball. It's all the same game.
Yeah, no,
and then even though it's in a different language, even though I was over here in this different part of the world, you just go out there and you play this game that you're so nervous about, but once you get there, I mean, you realize it's the same thing with maybe a little bit slightly different style of play, but you're like, I can do this. And then it just creates this momentum of the confidence building.
And that's the beauty of it, really. Like at the end of the day, like, the ball does all the talking. It's supposed to, the old saying or whatever, but you realize how true it is when you just like get out there and like you solve all your problems just by playing. Like you're like, can I do this? And the next thing you know, you're doing it. And it's it's really cool. So I've got countless, experiences from back then that I'll really never forget. Like going through those times, trials and training sessions and traveling and all that stuff, I've got memories for life from that whole period of my life and career, which is cool.
Who was the player that you were the most impressed with in that reserve side, like training?
So I tell this story a lot too. Adnan Januzaj, who back then was like he had already broken through into the first team and stuff, but he was kind of a young Belgian player. And I guess he had some attitude problems and stuff back then. He was still like 20, 21 years old. So I guess when I was there for training, there was like a week-long period, maybe 2 weeks, where he was sent down to the reserve team to train as like, I guess, punishment or something like that. And he was a baller, man. I'll always remember there was this one day we were doing a 1v1 drill to like big goals with goalies, but in like a really tight, small field. And I ended up putting up against him, and it was like the longest 45 seconds of my life. Like he beat me 100 times over and just would keep chopping back. And I was like this young trialist. So like he just was out there making fun of me basically. And so, I'll never forget that. He was a joke, and he clowned me for sure that day. And I'll never forget that. And I'll tell that story all the time, because that's like probably the best player I've trained with, like seen at that close of a level. You know what I mean? Yeah.
From seeing that, were you like, oh, that elite level is crazy further than I thought? Or are you still thinking like, oh, like even though he chopped you up, were you still thinking like, oh, I'm touching it, I'm close? Like, what was the afterthought?
It was like, the afterthought was that I was gassed, but
you're just trying to get oxygen.
But like I had already been there for maybe a week or two at that point and stuff. So like, and I knew who he was. Like, I'd already seen him playing on TV and stuff. So it was just kind of cool to be there. But it's funny like how close like you actually are sometimes. Like like I said, I tell these stories all the time. But that 2 months or so that I was there, and like I said, McTominay, Rashford. Like Rashford hadn't played a game for the first team yet. He was still, just like me, 17 or 18, playing reserves and stuff like that, training with the reserves. And then I think it was maybe 4 or 5 weeks after I'd spent my time there, it was the day that he went and made his debut, because an injury here happened, injury there happened. Next thing you know, he's making his debut, scoring 2 goals. And you're like, back at that time, I can clearly remember like being like, holy hell, like I was literally just training with this guy a month ago, and now he's just burst onto the scene. I just thought that was the sickest thing ever, you know. And he's the same age as me, and I'm like a huge fan of his, because you know he's you know, plays for my club and that I support and stuff. But the fact that I can look back and be like, I was like right there right before he broke out, like training with him and stuff, I just think it's such a cool thing to like look back on, you know. And at the time when it was happening, I was like, this is so sick. Yeah. And I was a teenager thinking that.
That's really cool.
So yeah, like I said, like so many stories and memories that like I certainly cherish from that period.
Yeah. And then going on to sign your professional contract, what was that like when, I mean, because you had that kind of in the back pocket when you were at the trial.
Yeah.
But still, signing Sheffield Wednesday, that's a huge club.
Yeah.
Ton of history there.
Yeah, it was crazy. So much history, obviously, that you learn really quick when you're there. But it was funny, like, you know, like I said, I mentioned, I went on these kind of glamorous trials, so to speak, at like these Premier League clubs, like your West Broms, your Southamptons, Manchester United, who had unbelievable facilities. Like I was in Phil Union in New York City, unbelievable facilities, you know, the top environments. And you go to Sheffield Wednesday, which is huge club, massive history and all that. But then like the resources and stuff aren't what they are at these other places. So it was like I go from those to this, and you know, all of a sudden you're on like a muddy pitch in the winter and like, you know, getting stuck in old school reserves coaches and stuff like that. But I loved it. Like I loved every second of all of that, because like it's what I always imagined. You know what I mean? I always wanted to get into England somehow, some way. And they gave me the opportunity. I went there. I felt really confident there. You know, I felt like I was, you know, really showed well there and stuff like that. And so when they offered me, it was really a no-brainer, just because that was my opportunity to get into England, which is what I always wanted and stuff. And so, yeah, I got that first contract offer. And then, like I said, but around, I think it was June, so a couple months before I turned 18, I think, is when I like moved over there permanently, when the paperwork and stuff. I'd literally, so even though I didn't go physically to my high school for the last like 18 months or so, I went to my high school graduation, my mom's orders. Yeah. And so I went to high school graduation and then moved to England like 2 days after that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when you moved over there, were you, I'm guessing at the beginning, extremely excited, like just so ready to go, but still you're 18 years old at this point, right?
Yeah.
So how was being away from home?
It's funny. It was so easy for me. It was so easy for me. I think just on the sense that, I wanted to do it so badly, you know, like, don't get me wrong. Of course I missed my family, you know, the dog, everything like that. My friends, like, you know, all my friends are going off to college and stuff like that. I was missing the graduation parties, all that fun stuff. But like I just knew it was what I wanted to do so badly. And then of course I first get over there and like spend the first month with like a host family. It's people that I'm still in contact with till today. Because great people who were so helpful for me for that first like month, 2 months, while I was really like figuring out like how to like move, really. You know what I mean? Like I had to find an apartment with, you know, another teammate in the reserves team back then. Like, you know what I mean? I had no idea about bills. I said, like, when I left my parents' house at 17 or 18 or whatever, the only thing I could make was toast. Like, you know, so that was a huge learning curve. Yeah. But like, I was super ready to do it. I was so ready to do it. And I was just so excited to like get into that environment and just become a professional and stuff, you know, even though of course it's going straight into the reserves, you know, and it's a different grind over there. Yeah. Like, you know, like signing your first professional contract, you realize really quickly means very, very little and stuff like that. But it was still just getting that opportunity to go over there for a preseason. Like I was just ready to dive into all of it. You know what I mean? And just crack on. So yeah, the moving away, like it was tough, but it was pretty seamless for me because I was really ready to do it.
Made me show me this one TikTok where it was, it's this lady, and it's like where the guy handles all the finances and everything.
Yeah.
And because of how our relationship works, I do all the bills, I do all the money, I do all the finances, and she just kind of like she works and makes money, but like I do all the bills.
Right.
And so she had this joke, it's like, if my husband ever dies, like this is me POV, and it's like, where do you keep the bills? Like, how do I do the bills? Because I'm like, wow, I didn't even think, like, I've set up the electricity in all this place, I've set up all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So now I was like, well, that's actually kind of scary, like if something does happen to me. So then we're working like, this is the electric company
lights
I
are
use.
going out on Mimi and Scarlett.
Yeah, this is how, all this kind of stuff. And so now she gets it, everything. But TikTok was so funny.
Yeah, no, and probably relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've learned now, but 18 years old, I didn't have a damn clue.
Yeah. But now you've moved in. You got was it a 2-bedroom apartment with a teammate somewhere in Sheffield?
Yeah.
And you're getting into the groove of everything. How was that transition then going forward? How's that first season with Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, there was ups and downs for sure. I mean, it couldn't have started any better. I got there, in with the reserves and stuff like that, all through preseason, doing preseason. Get a couple times getting asked to go and train with the first team, which was always really cool and stuff like that. And then, in like early August, which is when the season really just kicks off, the first team plays their first league game of the season, and then like 3 days later have their first cup game. And so it was like the Sunday after the first game of the season, the first team played, and then Tuesday they were playing Cambridge United on the road in the EFL Cup. Mm-hmm. And so that Sunday, the assistant manager of the first team came up to me and one of my boys, who I'm still friends with to this day, my buddy Sean Clare, and he told us that we were playing against Cambridge United. He's like, we're going to start you. Like, they were League Two at the time. Sheffield Wednesday was up towards the top of the championship, having just lost in the promotion final. And so I was like, no way. Like, I'm starting for first team already. Like, I'm getting my debut. And then the next day we go out for training, and he's like, by the way, like, I jumped the gun. You're not starting, but you're on the bench. You're traveling. So even, like, honestly, even just then I was like, all right, the nerves like settled a little bit. I was like, all right, I'm not starting, but I was on the bench. So I'm thinking like, all right, I can get my debut here. Mm-hmm. But honestly, like that first, like him telling me I'm starting, him telling me I'm on the bench, like my first thought was like, holy hell, like I'm getting a jersey. Yeah. Like there's going to be a jersey with like Murphy on the back of it. And so that was insane, especially because, like I said, it was early August. I'd only been there for maybe 6-7 weeks throughout preseason, played, maybe 2 or 3 reserves games at that point. And so to get thrown in like that, I ended up having maybe the worst debut you could possibly imagine. Playing Cambridge United at home, away, I should say, beating them 1-0. There's like 4 minutes left. Coach, I'm warming up. Coach calls my name. I'm like, this unbelievable, right? Getting my debut, going to be on here for like 5 minutes, win, go home. Oh, no. I come on, maybe like 30 seconds after I come on, some guy on their team hits an absolute worldie, right? Like 90th minute equalizer. So already EFL Cup, we're going into extra time. And I'm like, part of me is like buzzing because I'm like, all right, I get like 30 more minutes out here. And then same thing, like you play for the next 30 minutes, extra time. It's like the 120th minute now. One of their guys sticks one top corner again, lose 2-1. So on for my debut, 5 minutes left, thinking, here we go, win, 3-point, blah, 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 into the next round of the cup, end up losing 2-1. But I'll never forget that, honestly. It was like a 2-hour bus ride home, and I was just like sat the whole entire time just smiling, like not looking at my phone, nothing, just like smiling, like couldn't believe like my luck, like just made my professional debut, 18 years old. And then like I said, that the rest of that first year was like, I mean, spent most of my time with the reserves. All my time with the reserves, really, bar a few training sessions and stuff. You get called up to the first team every once in a while to train. But loved it, to be honest. Like, really good group of boys were over there that, like I said, I still have friends with a handful of them, or keep in touch at least with a handful of them. Our reserve team ended up winning the reserves cup and the reserves league for that level at that time, which was really cool to do. Like, like saying you get to lift a trophy, whatever, and like your first season was awesome. I had a lot of learning lessons too. Like I had a little spat with the coach once where I didn't mean any harm by it. I think back then, like, I never would have talked back or kind of, been out of line. I think it was just like a misunderstanding. And the coach really didn't like it. Kind of almost followed me like a shadow for a little bit, I was almost like a scapegoat at times because I had this little run-in that wasn't really supposed to be anything in the first place. And, there's times where I felt like that was just being held over my head for a little while. But it was, I loved it. Like I loved every minute of it. By the time the summer came, I couldn't wait to get home and see everyone and stuff again. But, it was everything I kind of was hoping for at that time. I played games, I was just a full-time footballer for the first time in my life. You know what I mean? In every day. The apartment that I got was directly next door to the training ground. So back then on off days and stuff, I was just able to walk next door, do my work and stuff. So I was just so totally invested in playing and improving and stuff. So yeah, I really loved it back then. It was definitely tough. And, there was a lot of times where it was pretty challenging, but for the most part, it was everything I wanted. It was everything I wanted for my whole life, really. So I embraced it all, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Did you learn to make any other food besides toast?
Yeah. I like to think I'm a pretty decent cook these days, and that all comes from basically me just Googling a recipe and trying to cook it. I'll never forget the first time I tried to cook anything. I ruined a pot by just burning through the bottom of it by keeping it on too long, whatever was in it. I just kept it on for way too long, ruined it. But no, eventually I learned more and more. And like I said, I just Googled recipes. It started with just chicken and rice, chicken and pasta.
A classic.
And as I went, I got a little bit better. And now at this point, I'd like to think I can cook a little bit.
The first time I made chicken ever, I took the frozen breasts from... because it was so cheap. I put them straight into the pan on high heat. So the outside got burnt and the inside was still frozen. Yep. I was like, something's wrong here.
This isn't adding up. Hey, no, it's tough. It's tough learning to cook. I grew up, my parents, my mom, my dad cooked and stuff. We had family dinners all the time. So having to go and do that on my own was a different world. But my roommate at the time, though, was helpful with that too. He was a couple years older than me, 2 or 3 years older than me. And he had just came to Sheffield Wednesday from Everton, grew up in Everton's academy. Shout out Judd. I still talk to him to this day too, but he cooked and he had lived on his own a little bit previously. So he cooked and he taught me a lot, to be honest. And in those first early months, especially just basic stuff like rent and, the bills and stuff. He kind of gave me an idea about all that stuff. So shout out him. It was a really, really good roommate to have that first year. He was a good friend of mine. And so honestly, the first year was great. There was challenges, but it was really awesome.
Yeah, and your contract, how many years did you sign? Was there option years? What did it look like?
So that first initial contract I had for 3 guaranteed plus 1 option year. So it was a 3-year first year. So over kind of in England, the other boys on this podcast have explained, you get your they go from a scholarship to a first year pro, second year pro, yada yada. So I signed for a guaranteed first 3 years, on whatever money academy kids get and stuff back then, and then had that 1 year extra, and then I only ended up really staying for 2.5 years before LAFC ends up coming in and that all happens. So,
yeah. And so how was that second year? And then, like you said, leading into LAFC, what did that look like?
Yeah, the second year was honestly, I came in, I obviously knew the lay of the land and everything like that. So I wasn't just a new kid at all. And I went into the second year with hopes of breaking into the first team. Really, I didn't want to just play in the reserves again all year. I really wanted to break into the first team, play more games. So I get there and kind of, off the bat, the first 5 days we went and did this boot camp basically with the reserve team, and that was really tough. But as soon as I get back from that kind of boot camp, I'm thrown in with the first team training and stuff like that, preseason training, and then after another couple of days, I play in one of their first team games, and then get told that I'm going on their preseason trip to Portugal. So I was one of I think 3 reserves at the time who got asked to go on that trip. So I was buzzing. I was thinking this is the perfect start to this second year. Played in all their preseason games and stuff like that. Was training with them near enough every day, kind of at the time. Yeah, it just never really kicked on from there that much. I still played, tons of games for the reserves. So really, really enjoyed it in that sense. But like, I really wanted to break into, I wanted to play more games. Like I guess I was going on 20. Yeah, I was 20 by the time like that second year was like halfway underway and stuff. And so, yeah, it got to like the winter of that year, and I wasn't playing at the first team at Sheffield Wednesday, and I wanted to go on loan. And, for whatever reason, the reserves manager at Sheffield Wednesday didn't really want the loan to happen. We had, like I said, we had a good reserves team, and he kind of wanted to stick our reserves team towards it. Like he wanted to be good with the reserves and stuff like that. Wasn't really looking to let me go on loan. So I was frustrated at that point. I also got told by the first team manager that I was going to play in an FA Cup game. Didn't end up playing in that game. Like the day before I was set to start, and then the morning of, he called me and said change of plans. So I was frustrated by that. And so as much as I loved being in England and stuff like that, I was frustrated. I wanted to go on loan. Stuff wasn't happening. And then while that was happening, LAFC ended up calling me kind of. So it was like the perfect storm, I guess, in my head, so to speak, because I was frustrated. There was an opportunity to leave. And so I ended up leaving like halfway through that, technically third year, if you count kind of my full year of going back and forth a little bit.
Looking back, like if you could go back now and tell 20-year-old Murph, would you say stick it out, grind it out there?
Yes,
you would? Why?
100%. So it's funny because even back then when I made the move, it was very much against my gut. You know what I mean? Like I knew I was kind of reacting off emotion. Like I knew I was frustrated, and that LAFC thing came in and happened. And also I was kind of like not sold the dream, but it was like, LAFC, like it was their inaugural season back in 2019. So, I mean, you're hearing all these good things about them, Carlos Vela, yada, yada. I mean, it was straight into the first team, like no reserves, nothing like that. And, I had some conversations with the GM and other guys who, had me convinced that I would be getting opportunities and stuff like that. But all the while, like, I just knew I wanted to be in England. You know what I mean? Like I said, like, it was always my goal to be in England. And so I knew I still wanted to stick it out. I was actually, at the time, talking to Sheffield Wednesday about extending my contract. But at that point, like I said, I was frustrated and kind of wasn't even sure about that because, I just wanted more games and stuff like that. But, so I do. Like, if I could go back, then I never would have left England. But I kind of knew that back then too. Like I knew I wasn't ready to leave. Like I said, I was just kind of frustrated. The opportunity came up. It seemed like, it seemed like a dream scenario for me. And so I jumped on it. But yeah, I definitely, thinking back, I would have stayed, stuck it out as long as I could. It's really hard, tried to climb the ladder.
With like LAFC, like that's a hard thing to turn down. Like hindsight's 2020, but like,
for sure.
I don't think many people could turn down a new MLS team, especially LAFC that was coming in with that much money. Much.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, like I said, I was 20 years old. I just turned 20 years old, I think. And I mean, I loved LA too. Like I loved LA so much. I'd been there a handful of times already by then. And then you just saw like all the hype surrounding them. Like Will Ferrell was doing his ownership videos and it just seemed so cool.
Which are some of the best videos ever.
Some of the coolest videos ever, the promo and stuff he does. And then they were building this beautiful stadium and like, they had a ton of money. Like I said, like the contract was very tempting and stuff, for a 20-year-old looking at it at least. And like I said, I still went thinking that, there was going to be loads of opportunity. I was going to get a chance to play a ton of games and stuff. It didn't pan out that way, but I wish I spent more time in England and gutted it out a little bit more and see where else that could have taken me.
It's hard too when you're young because like you're thinking 1-2 bad seasons of not even bad seasons, but seasons where you're just not getting all the recognition that you want.
Yeah,
you think it's like make or break. It's so much, and then now as you get older, you're like, oh yeah, one season where you're just kind of developing, doing all this stuff. It's just a tiny season in your 10-15 year long career.
Yeah, and like back, when I was back in England for those few years, like you always hear for like young players, like everyone always says like you need to play men's football. You need to play men's football. And so like, I had a full year in the reserves already. Like, I got my feet wet and stuff, and I was just ready for more. And like, you know, everyone says take that next step to you play men's football, take that next step. So I wanted to go League 2, League 1, like anywhere that would have, you know, given me a loan. And I had a couple teams who had, you know, asked about bringing me in on loan and stuff. It, like I said, just didn't really work out with the reserves manager and stuff. But yeah, I was just so set on playing men's football, you know, getting these experiences, getting opportunities. Like I said, I was really frustrated about being told I was playing, then being told I wasn't. And yeah, and it all happened like the same week. Like I said, in that same week in January back in 2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, I made the jump and I sent it over to LAFC, and you know, crazy transition, but it's a decision I made back then. And yeah, you live with it.
And then how was that? Like how was going? Because you joined LAFC in the preseason, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So they were probably like 4 or 5 weeks into preseason maybe when I joined up, and I mean I was so excited. I was so excited to be involved. Bob Bradley, obviously a very established coach with all in his career and stuff like that. Someone I had known relatively well because just the New Jersey soccer scene. My dad had known him and through coaching and stuff for a little while. So I was really looking forward to the opportunity and stuff. I was thrilled to be in LA. And even from like the first, you know, they pick you up at the airport and you bring you to the nicest hotel and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is sick. This is luxury kind of deal. And
they wined and dined you, huh?
Exactly. and so yeah, no, but I was so thrilled. I just, you know, I probably got off to as bad of a start as you could have. You know, I got in, did, you know, my medicals and all that kind of stuff, had a couple of days of like fitness tests, and then have like one full day of real practice. And then the next day played Vancouver Whitecaps in a preseason friendly and watched the first half, come out at halftime, maybe like 45 seconds after coming on, just get into like a 50-50 with the guy over there, get my arm tangled up and rip my shoulder out pretty bad. And so that's my second day of like officially playing, and it put me out for 3 months right off the bat. So that was really tough. That was really, really tough for me at the time. But, you know, I ended up settling in and stuff like that. I moved into, you know, a nice apartment. You're living in LA, you know, life's good. I just never really came back from the injury and got into any sort of opportunities or stuff like that. You know, it was training and stuff, giving it my all, you know, probably trying too hard to, you know, show what I can do and stuff after being out for a few months. Never really found a rhythm, had a pretty hard time, was very clearly not really in the coach's plans to ever play and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a long year for sure. I mean, plenty of amazing memories and so many learning experiences. And like I said, unbelievable team and staff and city and stuff, and, you know, more friends that I still speak to. But on the field, probably the toughest year I had gone through in my career.
And it's so hard, even coming in 4 or 5 weeks late to preseason. Yeah, you miss so much of that. And the first few weeks, first month, first 2 months is so much of like fully open eyes. Let's see what everybody can do. Yeah, and you miss that, then already that starts to be pushed into first, second team, and then you come in first 45 seconds, tear out your shoulder. Yeah. And then the team starts getting into a groove. It's I don't want to say impossible, but it's a big challenge to break through after that.
Yeah, it made it tough. So yeah, the whole shoulder thing happened, and it really sent me back like probably close to 3 months. But back then in the first like few months of that club, they were having roster problems and stuff, trying to get guys visas. And so like I pushed my way back after like maybe 2.5 months, but for like 3 weeks, I was just like training non-contact just so I could like make the game day roster so that they could have a full roster. And so even like those first like 4 or 5 games, like being on the bench and stuff like that, it was like such a rush. Like, you know, like I knew I couldn't play because I wasn't healthy like to play yet, but like it was such a rush, and I was like so looking forward to being back to like fully into it. And yeah, it just never really happened. Like as soon as I get back to like fully training, like guys have established themselves. Like, you know, guys like Mark Anthony Kay, who had just come from Louisville the season before, like he had gotten off to an amazing start to the season, has gone on to have a really good career for himself. But like guys like that, and, you know, they signed 1 or 2 more guys. And so, yeah, I just never really got back in, and it was just frustrating. Sometimes I, you know, felt like I really could have gotten a chance and was training really good, and it just never really happened for me. So yeah, that was tough. That was a really tough year on the field. But living in LA makes up for it sometimes.
Yeah,
it's a good off the field lifestyle and everything.
What part of LA did you live in?
So I lived downtown. Just because honestly, it was like a brand new building who offered like a awesome deal on the rent and stuff like that. And it was one of like the first places I checked out, and they were like, yeah, we have this deal. And I was like, all right, sold. And it was a really cool apartment building and stuff right in downtown. But I spent most of my time in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
A couple of the guys on the team lived in Santa Monica, and once we became closer friends, a couple months into the season and stuff, I pretty much would go over to their place as soon as practice finished and spend my afternoon there and just sleep at my own apartment. That was about it.
Santa Monica's sick though.
Yeah,
I
amazing.
love Santa Monica.
It was just that's why honestly why I love like Southern California. Like that year, just like even when I was having like a tough time, like you just wake up, the weather's nice, you can head to the beach. Like there's just so many like relaxers that you get going there that you can just help you take your mind off the football for a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. And then after that season, what was that off season like, and going forward, what happened?
Yeah, so that next off season was a huge eye opener for me because, I had my season in LA. I knew I wasn't going back to LA after the year that happened there. Only played 1 or 2 games, so knew I wasn't going back. But for what in my head, I was like, I'll still get like a trial or an MLS preseason or something somewhere else. I was fully convinced at first. And so that didn't really happen. And so my next option was just to head back to the UK. A couple of Scottish teams asked me to come on trial. And so I ended up going on trial at Hearts, which was a big club in Scotland.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool opportunity that popped up, and I was so thrilled to do that. Went over there. I was training with their first team, getting involved and stuff, really enjoying it. And so that was in like late January of 2020. So I think, 2019, somewhere around there. And I ended up tearing my quad while on a trial with Hearts. And so, obviously I was a trialist, so they weren't giving me like a scan or anything, but I was getting like a little bit of physio work for a couple of days, and I would try and go back and train, not realizing I was like progressively making this tear worse. So then when we realized I wasn't going to be able to train, I got sent back home to do all my rehab and stuff. And so that took like another 3 months. Like it ended up being a pretty bad tear, and so that took like 3 months. And so I did all my rehab, just tried to train to get fit. I went and did some training with like Hartford in their early years, just because
2020.
Yeah,
was
I think,
Ryan?
No, 2019. Yeah, so Ryan was there.
Ryan Williams.
The year Ryan was there. So that
was Sebastian Dalgard there?
Yes, so he was there. He was there also.
Jose Angulo.
Yep, Jose was there also. Jose I knew very well.
Connor McGlynn wasn't there.
He was not there yet. No, Alex Dixon, who was my teammate at Monterey, also.
Yeah,
he was there. So I just went because it was like the closest USL to my house at the time. So I would just go stay out there with a friend for like 4 days, train, go home when they had the game, just to keep fit and keep going. Because my plan was to go back to the UK to go on trial in the summer. So when their summer preseason came around, so I ended up doing that and went to Dundee, who was in the Scottish Championship. Went there for like a good 6 weeks, their whole preseason. Was fully convinced I was signing there. And then they told me at the last day that they didn't have a budget, which I think probably just an excuse kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that point I was like stuck. I had no idea what to do. I was just I was in the UK living with the host family, like trying to get my agent to get me something, like anything. And so I ended up getting this trial with a team called Arbroath, who had just been promoted into the Scottish Championship. And they were actually a part-time team. So they trained 3 nights a week and then played on the weekends. And so I went and trained with them one night. They offered me a contract. I called my dad. I was like, is this something I should do? And he was like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so I signed for them for the lint in their pocket and joined them in their preseason. And honestly, it ended up being one of the best years of my life.
Really?
Well, it got cut short because of COVID in the end. But that, I guess it was 10 months or so that I was there. Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I got a little bit lucky too. So I ended up doing like my full-time training at Hibernian, Hibs, who's a club out in Scotland. And so I played against them in a game, and knew the guy who had gotten me over to Scotland for my trials, knew some coaches over there. And after I played against them in a cup game early in that season with Arbroath, my kind of agent guy called over to them and was like, look, we have this guy. He doesn't want to be part-time, but this is a situation. And they were like, they liked me, and I had a really good game. And they're like, yeah, bring him in. Like, well, sometimes we'll train with our reserves. Sometimes we can train with the first team, but at least it'll be full-time training. Yeah. So I was like, all right, set. I've got my training full-time. I've got the game that I'll play all my clubs with, yada, yada. You know, I'm in men's football, which I really wanted. You know, I missed a full year of like playing games and stuff because I was at LAFC, not playing games except for a short loan.
With the lights, right?
With Vegas. And so I got over there in Scotland, and I was buzzing. Like, I just was so happy to play games and stuff like that and get stuck in and everything. So I really, really enjoyed that. And again, like I said, it was a part-time team, and I was making next to nothing. So I got involved in some coaching and stuff just to like get by. I joke all the time now, I was spending more money to play back then, and, you know, paying rent and all that kind of stuff to live in Scotland than I was getting paid to play. You know, I tell the joke, I was literally spending money to keep the dream alive at that point.
I think most of us have been there.
Exactly.
We've all been
you know
there.
what I mean? It's funny because like when I left Sheffield Wednesday, I just kept all my savings from that like 3 years in like a UK bank account, just on like the chance that I would go back and stuff. And so I ended up just having my savings and spent my year in Scotland basically burning through those savings just to keep playing.
I had I'm not gonna say the club, but I had one USL year where it was $500 a month, no housing, and I was like, all right, savings, and luckily I had some YouTube money, and Mimi was working, and I was like, we can grind it out, but we can you're just investing in yourself for a season, because you know one good season can turn things around.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And like I said, like I was happy to be doing it just because I was playing these games again. It was a good level. The Scottish Championship's a tough league to go into. And stuff. You know, I was still 22, you know, turning 23, I guess, back then. And so I was just ready for that opportunity and playing games and, like, you know, just kind of kickstarting, I guess, a little bit the career again after that year in LAFC and then an injury on a trial and stuff like that. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, like everywhere, there's a few ups and downs and stuff like that. I was like an odd one out over there because, you know, you really just had a school teacher and, you know, a plumber and these guys who are, you know, just playing footy as like their night job. But unbelievable locker room. Easily one of the best I've been a part of. A couple of friends still, like the guy I said couldn't have been a bigger help. My man, David Gold, like he helped me get into his coaching academy that he runs out there. And, you know, just some extra cash in my pocket just so, you know, I could pay the bills and everything like that and pay transportation and all that without a car. And yeah, just some of the times we had like with such a good group of people. Edinburgh, Scotland is unbelievable city and stuff like that too.
That's Mimi's favorite city.
Is it? Yeah. I can understand why with her design background and everything. Loves it. It's a very what's the word for it? With
like
their
architectural,
architectural city. Yeah. So I love my time there. And like I said, you know, unfortunately COVID cut what was a really good season short, because for the first time in my career I had played 30 odd games with a first team in, you know, a legitimate league and stuff. And I still think, you know, if it weren't for COVID, I would have stuck it out in the UK or wherever really for a few years longer. Yeah. Scotland, like I said, I loved it there and stuff. If I could have climbed the ranks in Scotland or something, but COVID happened, and so that brought me back home. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how the life, like you get over there, you're like, okay, I'm back in the UK now, and then something like that.
I still have like tons of shoes and clothes and some belongings back in like the host family that lived in Scotland, like back in their basement. Yeah. Because when I left, I just assumed I was leaving for like a week. You know, I'd literally booked like a flight home for like 2 weeks thinking this would pass, and then had my return flight. And I just haven't been back.
It lasts a little bit longer than 2 weeks. It's funny too, because it's such a footballer thing of like having your life so spread out. Like I remember there's one time that I had clothes, shoes, bank account, like money in a bank account in Germany. Right. And then I had clothes, everything back in Tulsa in a storage unit. And then I had some stuff at Mimi's parents' house in San Diego, and then stuff in my house in Portland, Oregon. And I was like, and at the time I was just in Portland, being like, okay, how do I don't know where I'm going to be next year. I don't know how I'm going to get all this stuff to my next place.
Yeah.
It's just, but you just don't even think about it.
You really don't. You just keep going. And then it hits you at the end of the year when you have to pack everything up. And it's the worst thing in the world.
Okay, here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, it's just a part. It's like, you live your life in so many different places, which is a hassle for sure. But when you look back at the end of your career and stuff like that, it's unlimited stories and, experiences that
not many people can priceless. Live in LA, New Jersey, Detroit, to Monterey Bay, to Edinburgh, to Sheffield.
I know. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
It's wild. Crazy. It's wild. People tell me all the time, oh, you're so lucky you've traveled so much and stuff. And 100% I am. I mean, most of those people don't realize when we're traveling, it's a hotel basically, but no, all these places you live, and like I said, the experiences, the people that I've met and stuff like that. I mean, everywhere I've gone, I could pretty safely say I've got like one friend, at least one friend for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Which not many people can say about their day-to-day job and their work experience. So
it's cool.
Very blessed.
Did you just sign a 1 year at Arbroath?
Yeah, at Arbroath it was just for 1 year because my plan wasn't to stay in part-time forever. So I just signed for that 1 year. And by the time like COVID had hit, which was in March, I was already talking. The coach had already talked about an extension or staying for the next year and stuff like that. And I told him it was my plan to try and get back to full time and stuff like that. But like I said, I mean, even the coach, a one-of-one coach, like someone I probably can't tell all the stories I have about because it's not safe for the public, but just like an old school guy, like a coaching legend back in Scotland, especially in the lower leagues and stuff like that. So it's like that, just another experience like that I never would have gotten if I just didn't, take the jump and, say yes to doing or sign the contract.
Scottish
and
people
like that.
Can be crazy too. They're so funny.
Crazy. And this guy was one of them. He was the manager and his brother was the assistant manager and his best friend was the assistant coach. And that was them three. And they were just absolute characters. Like practice was just an absolute circus. And, but like I said, it was such great times.
And then so you're back home for COVID, right? Yeah. Were you, I mean, it wasn't just 2 weeks. It was a long time. Yeah, what did your training look like? Was it like, because some people either go have great training sessions, workouts. Some people took a lot of time off. How was that a month for you or months?
Yeah, it was months at 3 or 4. I feel like, I mean, we did what we could with what we had, anywhere we could go, we would train, jumping fences left, right, and center.
And is we your brothers?
Me, my brothers, any friends we had in town. Like I said, a lot of soccer players in town. So whether it was guys playing in college or high school, like we got kicked off of so many parks and fields and stuff like that.
Isn't the craziest thing ever when it's you three that live in the same household at a field by yourself,
right, out in the wide open,
and then you get kicked off.
And they tell us we can't use it.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
And then like me and my brothers and my dad like went around finding like scrap yard like weights pretty much, like you know what I mean, just like
because all the weights were gone everywhere.
Like whatever we could get off of like my dad's like one of those guys who knows someone and everything. So like we got some weights from like this junkyard and stuff like that. It's other hand-me-down stuff. He might have robbed a gym at one point, but so yeah, we put together whatever we could, like, and we'd pull it out, we'd put it in the garage, and then we'd pull it out into the driveway every day. And when it was cold out, we'd just like layer up and go lift in the driveway. And obviously, I think like all of us who were trying to stay fit ran more than I've ever run in my entire life, just going out for runs in the road and stuff. So yeah, I did whatever I could. And like, I remember like when we couldn't get onto fields or whatever, like me and my brothers would just in the front yard or in the driveway, like play 2-touch or like just do whatever we can, right? It's one, because we want to stay fit and everything, but also just because like you're so bored. Like you just had to get outside and do something. So yeah, we trained as much as we possibly could with what we had at least.
And we haven't talked about it, but your brother plays professionally and your other brother plays in college, right?
Yeah. So my brother John Murphy Jr., he plays for Forward Madison. He's bounced around the USL for the last 5 or 6 years now too. So yeah, growing up with him, and then my youngest brother Owen, who is just finished his junior year of college at Montclair State University over in New Jersey.
Is that where the Red Bull Sioux played?
Yes. So that's where they play. A very, very good soccer program at the D3 level, and shout out Owen. He's been killing it the last few years there. So yeah, growing up with them, like you had everything you needed, like right inside, like right in your same house, right? Like me, John, and Owen, especially John, because he was closer to me in age and stuff like that. Like so many hours just out in the backyard, kicking each other, kicking the ball, like 1v1s. All the neighborhood kids, like whoever could come over. I had a big old backyard, strategically planned by my dad when buying the house.
Yeah.
So we put goals back there and stuff. My dad used to paint lines out in the backyard to make it look like a 5v5 field.
That's
and
sick.
All that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was 24/7 at our house for sure. 24/7, just juggling contests, all those kind of things, like between my brothers and I. So yeah, we were constant, and that's the best thing you have, right? It's a kid growing up, just a brother to go out and play footy with.
And that's cool because COVID was like an extension of that, like the childhood.
Yeah, it really was. It brought us totally back. Like Owen specifically, like really got into running during COVID. So he was like constantly like, you want to go for a run, like basically racing each other on like a 4-mile run and stuff like that. And we'd lift together every day and those kind of things. So yeah, it was actually really cool. And it was kind of the most time, probably like 4 or 5 months, I guess, almost. Maybe like 4 months. It was probably like the most time that I had spent at home, like all at once, since I had been 17 or 16. So yeah, it was as much as COVID sucked, and it sucked. Yeah. It was a pretty cool time to be like have my brothers there and stuff like that, and hang out with my sister, who I don't get to see as often, and all those kind of things.
That's really cool. And then that next season, did you join a team?
Yeah. I joined RGV.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I had almost joined RGV the year before, but I had gone to preseason with RGV in Houston, so I trained with Houston a little bit and stuff too. So
it's funny how those stories just like slip through the cracks.
I know, I totally
someone
forgot
will be
about
like,
that
even
part.
after the podcast, someone will be like, oh, I didn't even we didn't even talk about your loan spell at Las
Vegas. I know,
Vegas.
with the lights. I know, there's not much to talk about that one, trust me. But yeah, so I forgot about that. So because Jerson Echeverry, who's now one of the assistants over at Vegas, he was the head coach of RGV at the time. And he was a New Jersey guy who was a coach at PDA also growing up. He also played at Seton Hall with my dad back in the day. But so he was the coach at RGV, and he had really wanted me to come in the year before. And so I told him I'd come to preseason, because at that point I was like set on trying to get another MLS opportunity or going back to the UK. But I went to Houston with RGV for like a week or 10 days on preseason. And I really was hoping to get an MLS opportunity, but they only offered me an RGV contract. So at the time, I told them, like, I'm going to go on trial back in Scotland, so I'm not going to sign with RGV. And then, COVID happens and everything. And I think the USL season was getting started back up in like June or the beginning of July back then.
Yeah, July.
And so he called me like right before June. And he was like, look, I don't know what you're doing, but the season's about to get started again. And I was like, oh, I got nothing else.
Yeah.
And, Scotland's not getting started up again anytime soon. So I signed for RGV for that restart of the COVID season, played 16, 17 games there, which was different, obviously. COVID, just playing the same that year, as you're just playing the same 3 teams, 4 teams over and over.
Played against me at Tulsa a lot.
Tulsa. Yeah, played one of the worst games of all time at RGV in the Mosquito Storm.
The Mosquito Storm. God,
anyone who was at Tulsa or RGV back then will remember that one.
That was terrible.
So yeah, I had that year, had a tough year with the RGV team. We were young and stuff, didn't win a lot of games, but ended up coming back the next year to RGV again under Wilmer, who was the head coach that year. Had a great year with the team. Had a great year, made playoffs, won our first playoff game, beat Phoenix in Phoenix. So that was another really good year. And so yeah, 2 years in RGV. I never knew what to expect going to RGV. That's what happens when you go to these places sometimes.
That's what's so funny is just thinking about it. You go from the beaches of LA to live in Edinburgh to then now McAllen, Texas.
Yeah.
It's like you can't get 3 more different places on earth.
Yeah, but honestly, I really enjoyed my time at RGV. I think part of it, being the first time that I'd spent like 2 consecutive years in the same place since my time in England was really nice. And also, it was such a good set. It was such a shame that they folded because their stadium, their training facilities, their gym and everything, it was some of the best in the league. So especially during that COVID season when you couldn't do anything except for be with your team and stuff like that, you just I felt so fit and everything because all you had was working out and training and all that kind of stuff. And then that second year in RGV, we had a good team and a really good group of boys. A bunch of those guys I still talk to every day. So that just made it a really, really enjoyable year and stuff like that. I had some ups and downs on the field, like as you always do, but had a really good group of boys to like, you know, that were friendships, that built friendships really, that so made that year really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And then in the off season, were you looking to go back to RGV? Because I know a different team came into the picture.
Yeah, for that third season, no, I was not going back to RGV for that one. I knew I needed a change after that second season in RGV. Mm-hmm. I didn't know where. I was hopeful that I would have plenty of options, as you always realize. It doesn't end up being that way.
How much does it suck being a free agent? That's the worst feeling in the world. It's the worst time. Yeah. Every single offseason, and for me, it's been pretty much every offseason that's just been like, here we go again.
Yeah,
and the first ones, you start off with so much hope, and you hear all the rumors, you hear the interest, you hear that word all the time. Interest.
Coach is coming up to you after games asking you, oh, what's next year like? And stuff like that.
And then you have this like, oh yeah, we're really interested in you, but then we got to look at, maybe we're looking at a different right back first, and then all of a sudden time goes by, you keep on it. It's such a mental, and one day you can be so confident that you're gonna have 4 opportunities, and then the next day you're like, this is done. I'm done.
Every year, it happens every year.
It's such a roller coaster.
But yeah, so that's what it was like leaving RGV that year. I didn't really know what was gonna be next, but I had already heard about Monterey obviously coming to the picture, and my very, very close friend Grant Robinson, who's still over at Monterey, he had already had some contact with Frank Yallop, who's the Monterey
Grant, you knew him from RGV.
RGV, right? Yeah, is where it was. We played against each other a little bit growing up. He was at DC United, I was at PDA. Mm-hmm. But then RGV, is when we were on the same team and became very close that year. And so he had spoken to Frank Yallop, who's the Monterey coach, kind of towards the end of that year in RGV, and Frank had coached him at Vegas and told him about Monterey. We told him he was interested in bringing him over there. And as soon as Grant had told me that, I was like, well, hell, I mean, Monterey sounds cool. California sounds cool. Like, put in a good word.
Yeah.
So he ends up, kind of putting in a good word for me. With Frank, I get a phone call from Frank, like midway through the off season, have, 1 or 2 more phone calls, and end up signing on, I remember New Year's Eve, I guess, of 2021.
Which is pretty late.
Yeah, very late. Very late. He left it late for sure.
Yeah.
Which never gives you confidence.
No, that's the word. Because you're just like, let's go.
Especially like after that first conversation, like it seems like it goes so well. And he's like, all right, you'll hear back from me. And then you're just like looking at your phone every day waiting for that call. So yeah, but I ended up signing with Monterey. All just off of Grant, who put in a good word with the coach. They reached out. And so I went to Monterey for their inaugural season in 2022 and spent my last 2 years playing for them.
And Monterey, now you're going to the Northern California, mid-Californian beaches now.
Yeah.
How was the setup there? How was the locker room? How were the guys? How was your first year?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, great guys, good setup and stuff like that. Obviously, with any new club, like there's plenty of challenges, Our stadium wasn't built until like 6 months into the season. Because,
you played your first 10 games away or something like that, right?
First 7 games away.
First 7 games away.
First 7 games away.
I remember seeing that and be like, that's brutal to start a season off like that.
First 7 games away, only won 1 of them. Didn't have a stadium, didn't have locker rooms, like had temporary locker rooms. All those kind of like challenges you face as a new team.
Where'd you guys train?
So California State University, Monterey Bay, CSUMB.
Yeah.
That's where the stadium is at.
You know what's funny? That school was the very first school that I played in college in preseason.
Really?
And I had a hat trick against them. Yeah. And
first and only hat trick ever.
First and only hat trick. Because I was supposed to come in as a right back in college. And then we had one of our strikers get injured. Another one had disciplinary issues. And so those were our 2 starting strikers. And then they're like, well, Matt, you're not going to play right back. We're going to throw you up there with this other freshman striker.
And then became a phenom.
Then I became I scored a hat trick. I was like, I remember thinking like, what is going on here? I haven't scored a hat trick in forever.
I didn't even know there was a college there or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly, I mean, I know they're decent now, but I guess back then they were pretty poor.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
But yeah, that's where we trained, because they were building our stadium on like an empty lot there. And then they had, soccer fields for their men's and women's soccer teams. So we trained there for like our first 4 or 5 months, and it was not good. The fields were not good. It was frustrating. We were losing. But then we kind of like found our own, once we had this stadium built and stuff. It was a great atmosphere over there. I mean, the community and stuff of, Monterey County and everything, they really kind of bought into that team. Made really good atmospheres. Like you've played, it's a very cool little stadium that they've got over there.
It's a really good setup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, the thing I don't like about it though is the locker room that you have to walk outside to go into the shower.
Yeah, that's
and come
tough.
back in.
Yeah,
Especially
they still have
freezing.
temporary showers, so that and it gets pretty cold there at night. So those were always tough. But hey, at least you knew the home team was doing the same thing. It wasn't any better on our side. But yeah, no, it was good. It was a nice environment and stuff. Obviously, you meet tons of different people at every new club, and just
you met Chase Boone there.
I did meet Chase Boone. Shout out our boy Chase. He was the first person I met when I arrived in Monterey, and me and him became very tight from there. So like I said, Chase, great guy. And a lot of good guys on the team over those past 2 years and stuff. Like I said, you stay somewhere for more than a year and you become pretty close with a lot of those guys.
Did you ever see any of my videos training with Chase ever?
So this year, actually, once we made like the connection. So I'd seen your videos in the past and stuff, obviously, but I never knew Chase. And then Chase had mentioned knowing you over those like 2 years. And I didn't really put two and two together. And then me and you spoke this year and you're like, yeah, like some of my old videos, like were all with Chase and stuff like that. And I went back and looked to like, oh yeah, that's Chase. And then obviously in this off season, you did some stuff with him and stuff like that too, I think. So yeah, I did. I went back and looked at the old videos just to see what old Chase looked like.
Chase was so funny. Those videos.
Well, we call him Golden Retriever.
Hilarious. I remember him just randomly, just like being in the 1v1 line. And he's talking about his pet raccoon.
Yeah,
and then like just stuff like that.
That guy's completely off it sometimes, but no, great dude, great teammate.
Good player.
Yeah, great player. Some guy, and like I said, a guy I still talk to very regularly. Unfortunately, Chase, if you're listening, get back from that injury soon, man. Back on the field in no time. But
it's tough, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, good team over there. Like I said, once we kind of got comfortable in the league and stuff like that, we started getting some great results and real momentum. And it didn't happen for us. We ended up making it in the playoffs either year. But two really good years in Monterey, where I played a lot of games, and I gave that club my all for 2 years. Kind of I became very invested in that community and met some great people off the field and stuff like that. And I was definitely sad to leave when it came down to it. I didn't expect my time to be up in Monterey when it was. But tons of good memories from there again, and tons of great people. And like I said, people still on and off the field that I keep in touch with. And I root for Monterey because I have very good 2 years there and stuff like that. Yeah. And look forward to playing them in September.
They come here, right?
No, we go to them.
Oh, we go there?
We go to them,
I still get my Hartford schedule and this schedule mixed up. Because I was so focused on that schedule for so long.
Yep, makes sense.
Then I come over here.
Switch over and you forget who you played where. Yeah, so we go out there in September, which will be cool.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. And the field is not as ice skating right
it's not. That was definitely something. We said it ourselves when we played there, but every opponent would say that about the field. It's just a little bit slippery when it was new and stuff like that. A little, who knows what it really was, but yeah, it definitely gotten better. And I would say, probably one of the nicer like stadiums or surfaces that you can play on now. Especially once you play there at home for 2 years, you kind of find a way to love it for sure.
But the fans are great too. It's a really good USL stadium.
It is, it's not too big. It seems pretty packed most weeks. They're really tight to the field and stuff too, so it makes them sound a lot louder and everything. And then they got a good fan base, different fan groups and stuff like that have their songs and everything. Yeah, it's really good people over there. Really, really good people out in Monterey, and a lot of people that I'll be in touch with for a long time.
Yeah. And then that brings us to this year.
Yeah.
And how did Detroit come in the picture?
It was funny, actually. There was no one in the picture for a long time.
Really? Another tough offseason?
Yeah, which was really frustrating because...
What was the easiest offseason you had?
The easiest offseason I've probably had, I guess, was my years in between Monterey because...
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even re-sign for Monterey right away. I was like... I wasn't up in the air. I wanted to resign, but we were just going back and forth on contracts. I was at that time thinking that maybe another team would be out there. I talked to a couple other teams, ended up going back to Monterey. So that was pretty smooth. But then, last year, it's one of those, after you have a couple good years and stuff like that, and like you said, you have some conversations. I've been in contact with a couple teams towards the end of last season. You know, I a coach or two reach out and had some conversations and stuff. So I was like really confident going into this off season that something really good would fall into place for me. And then, you know, like it happens, you have the conversations and all of a sudden, you know, you start hearing less from those same coaches and GMs and those kind of things. So that was happening with multiple teams.
The worst is when you're talking to a team and then it starts to go quiet and then you see it announced they signed your position and you're like, no.
Of course. But yeah, like early in the off season, there was two different teams who like I was very convinced I was getting offers from. Like they both told me kind of hang tight. We're putting an offer together. And then both teams at different points in the off season came back and said, we went a different way kind of deal. And so it was quiet for a while. You know, I wasn't hearing much. I was getting my agent, reaching out to teams. I was reaching out to teams. Apparently, you know, my agent had reached out to Detroit early in the off season, and they said they weren't overly interested, and maybe were set in the center midfielder position. And then, like, I want to say like late on in December or early January, even like maybe 3 weeks before preseason.
Yeah.
My agent had phoned me up to let me know that Detroit wanted to get on the phone with me and talk to me. So, it was all I had at that point, and I was, you know, ready for anything. So I called up, I spoke to Trevor, had a really nice conversation with Trevor, tried to sell myself as much as possible because, like I said, I needed an opportunity again. And so I had a really nice conversation with him, then had a really great conversation with the gaffer, Danny. And after those two conversations, I was like, wait, I really want to be in Detroit, actually. It kind of went from like, all right, here's the only thing I have to like, all right, well, I really want this. And so, yeah, I had like one or two more good conversations, and then eventually, you know, I had the contract sent over and packed my car up and drove out for preseason.
Drove from Monterey or drove from New Jersey?
Drove from Jersey.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, actually, I had like the couple days before coming out here, I had to fly back to Monterey to like pack up all my stuff because I was you know, when the season ended, I was relatively convinced I was going back. So, you know, it ended up happening with Detroit. I had to get on a flight to Monterey. Spent like 36 hours in Monterey packing up, get back on a flight, and came here. 3 days later, drive to Detroit.
It's
the USL for you, man.
It's only something that a USL player with that level of equipment would do. It's funny. And then how has been the first? Because we're 6 months in.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're officially a little more than a third of the way through the season. 6 months in, which is wild. But I've loved it, honestly. I've loved it. I came here not with zero expectations, just with very little know about the place. I knew very little about the place. You know, like, I'd only really had one buddy or friend or whatever at play at the club and stuff, so I didn't really know any of the Tommy McCabe.
Oh yeah.
So I really didn't know any of the guys here. Like, it was the first time I was coming into a team where I basically knew no one.
Yeah.
When I saw Elvis was announced as signing, that was literally the only person that I knew, or who I knew personally at least, or I played with on this roster. So I didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't played at Keyworth or anything like that yet, but I'd obviously seen it. So like, that was the one thing, like going to Troy, I was like, all right, well, the atmosphere is going to be sick. So like that you have to look forward to. And then I think you'd agree, ever since we've gotten in for preseason and stuff, you know, it's been pretty awesome. You know, the day to day is a great challenge. You know, it's very intense. Everyone goes about their work very seriously and stuff like that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And, you know, it's felt like the perfect spot for me, honestly. I think I've fit in with the team very well and stuff like that. I think I like to think at least I've added a dimension to the team and stuff. And, I've really enjoyed my time here. I've loved it. You know, I really look forward to, you know, getting up and going to work every day, which not everyone can say. And so I honestly, I've loved it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, very much so.
Yeah, it's been a really good start.
Yeah.
Even just like the fun part of like waking up like, oh yeah, I'm going to go win soccer tennis this morning.
Yeah, that's what it is. You know,
what's your soccer tennis rank? Give me your top 5 rankings, and don't be humble. Put yourself where you think you should be.
I will not be. So I'm going to give.
And you don't have to put me there.
Don't worry. So I'm going to put Ben first. I'll give Ben that. I'm going to put Maxi second. I'll put myself third. Dom's going to drop to 4th for me.
Okay.
And then See, here's where it's tricky because somehow your name's popped to mind here at 5.
Because I'm ranked like 15th right now.
Yeah, see, I think you're being done a little bit dirty on the official rankings.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, for me, it's a toss up between probably you and Nate at 6. And what's your opinion? What's your level compared to Nate?
Nate's good.
Nate will put his body on the line. Nate will put his body on his line.
Nate's good.
I'll give you and Nate 5A and 5B.
Okay, I like it.
Like I said, it's fun. Like there's something to do every day. Competition. You know, we're out and doing the golf competition last week, and the head tennis every day, where we actually take it serious and stuff. It's like I was saying to someone earlier. It's like there's days where I get into training at like 8:30 in the morning. And I won't get out of here until like 2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah. Like it really feels like you're at your workplace all day, you know, with the resources we're lucky to have, the food that we get and stuff like that, you know, like it feels like a very professional environment on the day to day, I would say, which is something I love about this place for sure.
Yeah. I've been at a lot of USL setups, and this is by far the best one, like overall. Every place has their pros and cons and everything, but like this has been my favorite place.
Yeah, sure. I honestly, I'd probably say the same thing from top to bottom. Like I said, RGV had great facilities and everything about that. You know, Monterey there's some great parts about Monterey and everything too. But just in terms of like your day to day and stuff, you know, like I said, like ice bath, hot tub, the gym being on site, the food we get and stuff like that. It's like it feels like, you know, I go through a full work day, you know, from start to finish, which it's something I love. Yeah, like I said, I love about it. And I would say from the professionalism and stuff like that, it's up there for me for sure.
All right, so 3 final questions for you.
There you go.
First, what has been the all-time worst moment of your career?
All-time worst moment of my career.
The lowest period of your life where you were like, I don't want to say depressed, but like close.
Yeah, I would just think, you know, there was some really tough times during that year at LAFC. Yeah. Like making that jump that I did to come back from England, going there with such high hopes and stuff like that. There was some really tough times. I mean, I've told this story in the locker room and stuff. There was points at the end of the season where we would go out for training and like I wasn't even involved in the training session. You know, I was just out there doing like fitness and technical work with the assistant coaches. And like on days like those, you know, you really like, you have a look in the mirror and you're like, damn, like, you know, is this for me? Like, how, you know, what's this all about? And so, there was definitely times throughout that year where it was pretty dark and stuff like that. But then at the same time, like you have to try and remember, it's like, all right, like you're on the grass, just like kicking a ball around, you know what I mean? Like you're definitely not the best where you're at, and it's not the best situation, but you know, you could be way worse off. So I tried to, you know, keep that mindset, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't some really, really hard times during that whole year.
I've been in a situation where you're kind of like not involved in the sessions and you're doing the same thing on the sideline. And I've even had to be the person who shagged balls for the striker. And I'm like, that's hard.
Yeah. See, that's honestly basically what I felt like. There'd just be times the whole team's training and I'm just doing laps around the field. I was probably the fittest guy on the team because that's what I spent my time doing. So that was really hard. And like I said, to be 20 years old with like such high hopes, but also like I said, like my gut feeling when I left for LA is that I didn't really want to. So then all of a sudden you're telling yourself you made the wrong choice. You know? So that was tough. That was really tough. Learning experience for sure. But really, really hard time for me.
And then on the flip side, what is the all-time best moment of your career?
All-time best. Yeah. There's probably a few, you know, like I'm still waiting for like, you know, a championship or something like that, you know, like to lift a trophy, to really like have that moment. But I could go, you know, all over the place, like playing Borussia Dortmund for LAFC, you know, at that point, making my...
What was the biggest name that you played against at Borussia Dortmund? Or actually overall in your whole career?
Overall in my whole career, I guess it would have had to be, you know, Marco Reus in that Dortmund game, I think. Yeah. You know, I've played with and against like Christian Pulisic, you know, and some other guys like at LAFC, Carlos Vela, and, you know, like I was on the bench against Galaxy when Ibrahimovic made his like Galaxy debut. So like I've been around a lot of those players and stuff, but probably like the best.
Was that when he had his like hat trick?
Yeah. That was his hat trick game. His very first game was insane. One of the coolest things I've witnessed live.
That's a really cool game to watch.
Yeah. And so I guess I guess maybe, you could say your debut, just like my first professional game, but also my first goal, which was, I don't get any of them really. So when I scored 2 years ago, I was telling you this story the other day. It was on my birthday, playing for Monterey against Indy, and I scored a really good goal. And so that was definitely one of the best feelings too. I think we won the game 5-0 or something like that also. So that was a really cool night for me. Yeah. So, any of those like standout moments, I would say, but I'm still waiting for the one, the one end of the season trophy, shield, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. The goals are always, what was your celebration?
Oh, I freaked out. I did like 4 of them.
Oh yeah.
And my boy Sean, who's from back at Sheffield Wednesday, I met him. He had this pose that he was doing when he scored. And he plays for Wigan Athletic over in England. And so when I scored, just to like be funny to like him, I like did his pose at the camera, and then like I'm like close to my faith and stuff like that. So I did like the whole like prayer and that kind of things. I ran over to the corner flag where all the teammates were. Like it probably lasted like 4 minutes long, but no, it was class. I loved every second of it. I'm waiting for it to happen again. Because you won't see any more composure the next time I score. It's gonna be just a whole reset of the first celebration.
I know it's hard. Like for us, like not many goals happen in our career.
Yours was great this year. That celebration you had was great with Scarlett.
Scarlett.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was Ryan Williams. I was showing him pictures or videos of Scarlett doing that. That was like 2 weeks before. He's like, "Oh, mate, if you ever score, you got to do that one."
Oh yeah.
And literally 2 games later, and it was so funny that Louisville game. I was like, I just felt like, oh, I got to remember to do that because I'm going to score. And then that just happened right
funny
there.
How it works.
Yeah, it's really funny. And then my final question for you is now, if there's a lot of 2 questions. We'll see. But if you could go, I think I already know the answer. But if you could go back to any time in your career. Go back and give younger Murphy some advice. When would you go and what would you say?
So I'd actually probably go back to that year at LAFC, and I'd have so much to say, to be honest. But I would have told myself to just like, I don't know the exact phrase for it, but just like almost stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? Like stick your chest out a little more. Like when it was going tough for me, I definitely went into a little bit of a shell. Yeah. Which affected my confidence massively, affected my game for sure. Like, I'm sure there's players who I played with back at LAFC who probably think I was way off the level and stuff like that. Cause sometimes I would really go into a shell and it would be hard for me to be out at training. Like I wouldn't want to be out there and stuff like that. So I would go back then and just be like, just like thicken up your skin a little bit, like, just kind of do whatever it takes just to get through this and add some mental toughness in and stuff like that. So I would just try and go back and like guide myself through that a little more. Cause I mean, I probably learned from that point to just kind of be brave and everything. Not that, I went to England early and stuff. So that obviously took bravery and courage and stuff like that. But in a more personal sense, like you see me now on the day today, and like I'm constantly like loud, and I don't necessarily back down from much.
You bite to your game.
Yeah, it's a bite and stuff like that. And I had it like on the physical side back then. I never shied away from a tackle or anything, but I should have been a little bit more brave in the sense of like going up and speaking to the coaches, like trying to put my neck out a little bit more, like trying to learn and like improve rather than kind of go into that shell and lose confidence and stuff. Just try and guide myself through that a little bit. And I look back on that now, and as tough as it was for me, and maybe I wasn't the level and stuff like that, I still think different circumstances I could have made it there, but just kind of be like, look back and just like be able to just tell myself at a specific time, like, you got this a little bit, like just toughen up a little bit, and like express yourself a little bit more. Them kind of things, just to like help me through a tough time, because I wasn't ready for that big of a challenge at 20. Like I wasn't ready for the mental side of it whatsoever, and the emotional side of it. So I would love to go back and just tell myself, like, what, you're ready for this. Just kind of toughen up a little bit. Get that thick skin.
One of my pet peeves is when people say like even try to compare leagues based off of like one player's season compared to how they are the next season, or that people don't understand how they can be shit for one club and then go to another club and pop off. And it's like, you don't understand how there's so many variables that affect how you play day to day. From your confidence that's affected from like even you can go play as a shell, like even little injuries, niggles that you're dealing with. It's like crazy the turnaround you can go from one club to another.
And that's what it was. Like I said, at Sheffield Wednesday that second year, like I was chomping at the bit to try and make the first team. Like I would go into them training sessions or friendly games with the first team and do everything I can to show myself and show my worth and, you know, show that I'm kind of ready for that level. And then when I first got to LAFC, I was so ready to just jump in and like show that I'm a part of it and stuff, and show my level to them, like thinking that I was bringing something to that team too. And it was just a total 180 once, you know, I came back into training and, you know, wasn't getting the opportunities and maybe wasn't training so well and lost confidence and stuff like that. Like I felt like I wasn't supposed to be out there, and like I was worried about going to training on the day to day. And
isn't that the worst feeling?
You're never going to get even half of the best out of yourself when you have that kind of mindset.
You don't even recognize yourself on you see clips, you're like, what am I doing?
You know, like there was times that, you know, I could have told this story when we started talking about it, but like there was times when I woke up in the morning, I was like, no, like not training today. Like I don't want to go to training today. And then I would go out there and I'd be like anxiously waiting to like hear if I was even part of the training team or not. And then like he's like lists the names for training and stuff like that, and your name's on there, and like you're right in front of all the guys and just kind of like walk off, head down to the corner to go run laps, you know, like that stuff like that. And then like I giving the ball away in training and like being scared to go and get it again and stuff like that stuff I could have never related with like my whole entire life, you know, like I was all about the moment and stuff. And, you know, it's a little, you know, just a little bit of lost confidence can go a long way. And so that's why I say, like, if I could go back, just kind of like, just, you know, have thicker skin, like try and, you know, help myself through those little moments and stuff like that. Cause I definitely caved when, you know, I looking back on it and thinking of kind of like the man I am a little bit more today. Like I could have just pushed my chest out a little bit more and, you know, trying to just take it day by day and grind myself way back into finding a way. But hey, you live and you learn. You know?
That was me when I was training with Sacramento Republic.
Right.
Oh my, like shell of myself. Yeah. And like seeing clips and being like watching myself and be like, what am I? Like, it's for me, I was so nervous of taking guys 1v1 for like, I want to go. Like the best part of my game, I feel like is just going just going.
And you double think everything.
And like, I was hitting long balls all the time, like, cause I was like, oh, at least I won't lose it this time. And I'm like, that's not who I am as a player.
Exactly.
And I'm taking somebody 1v1 and I'm going 60% speed so I don't lose it. Right. But then that just makes me lose the ball more.
And it's like, you just aren't yourself at all.
Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't even reckon, but you need to go through those moments and those seasons to be like, I can't ever, like, you learn from it. Sure. And then I got to the point where it's like, well, if I'm losing the ball no matter what, playing as a shell of myself and being scared to lose it, I might as well just go out full speed. Right. And because I'm going to lose the ball anyway.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden it starts working and you're like, oh, that's it.
And that's all it is. And it's like I said, like there would be weeks where I felt like I was training great and stuff like that. Like, you know, I just, wherever it came from, like I found something for that week or that 2 weeks. And then, you know, you get hit with you're not on the roster again and stuff like that. And then you just kind of creep back into that shell where it's hard to come out of and stuff. But yeah, no, it's like, it's all experiences, like, you know, like, and I look back at the end of the day and like, you know, I must have been 3 or 4 years old where I just decided that I was obsessed with and wanted to become a soccer player. And then you look back at the end of the day, you know, this is my 9th, I guess, technically professional season and stuff like that. I've got 200 odd games played and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, when you're a 7-year-old, you would have clawed someone's eyes out just to be able to say them things. You know what I mean? So
just to get one paycheck to kick the ball around. It's crazy.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, look, it's been a great year so far this year. I told my parents, I think a couple of days ago, like I've totally felt rejuvenated this year and stuff like that. Like a brand new like feel for football, just because like it's, you know, the intensity and stuff like that has brought like a new fire to me and stuff. So I've loved it this year, and I really hope to go and achieve a lot with this club because I think we've got all the tools to do it. Yeah,
100%. Well, Murph, thank you so much.
Shelly, pleasure, mate.
I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And anything else? Anything we need to cover? Any other random tidbits or anything?
I think we covered all the bases, man. You know,
there's always stories out there.
There's always stories.
As long as we didn't miss any big ones.
No, we didn't. And like I'll just say, shout out my family. I know my mom and dad will end up watching this because they still treat me like a kid. So hey, shout out them. You know, they've gotten me to this point full. Excuse me. And it's not only my mom and dad. You know, all the friends and other family and stuff like that. But you know, I know my parents are going to tune in, and so shout out to you guys, mom and dad.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Murph.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, and once again, this is the Against All Odds podcast. All Murph stuff will be in the description if you want to check them out. And thank you guys for watching.